Welcome to Dimes to Dollars. This is a webinar, an online discussion, and it'll be a very informal session today. So we're gonna have lots of fun. It'll be relaxed, back and forth. We're gonna share some information. It's not a sales pitch. I want to make that clear to everyone. We're just gonna be talking and sharing information. Everything practical, lots of concrete tips. So that's going to be really important. We're here to inform. My name is Anita Campbell, and I'm over on the left there in the red. I am the founder and CEO of Small Business Trends, a community that reaches 2 million small business owners every month. And I've also got some great panelists with me today. I'm super excited to introduce them, and so I'm going to ask each of them to just say a few words about themselves. So first is Michael Kamen. He is the Director of Digital Marketing and Development for Constellation Energy. So Michael, welcome. Tell us a little about yourself.
Hi, thank you. Quite excited to be here with two of my best buddies too, two people I respect greatly. I'm based out of Houston. Constellation Energy is one of the country's we're called retailers of energy. So in 17 states for homeowners, 24 states for small businesses, and throughout the US for large businesses, we can provide energy directly instead of the utility. That means that the utility, we use their lines and they provide the actual, molecules, but that energy is bought and provided by us in effect. We are owned by Exelon Corporation, which is the largest provider of utilities in the country. But in our business, we can buy it from Exelon, and we do, but we also go out into the spot market, and therefore we can give fixed prices that can go up to 4 years or longer. We are the leader with large businesses, and we have roughly 2.2 million customers nationwide.
Okay, well, thank you, Michael. And Michael is just an all-around great and fun guy. We've had great experiences meeting with him a couple of times at conferences, and that's been great, Michael.
It's been my pleasure, absolutely.
Well, and with that, I'd like to introduce our second panelist and a good friend of mine, Ivana Taylor. Now, you'll notice that her name is spelled like the ex-wife of our president, but she pronounces it Ivana, as she explained to me, given her heritage. So Ivana, tell us about yourself.
So hi everyone, Ivana Taylor here. I'm the publisher of DIYmarketers.com. So that stands for Do It Yourself. It is the place where you will get small business tool tips and ideas, low cost marketing ideas, specifically for small business owners. So great fan of all things that are a good value, fun, and easy.
And that's great. And so Michael is from Houston. Now, I'm from Naples, Florida, and we're going to be talking about hurricanes in just a minute or two.
Let's talk about weather events in Cleveland. I'd rather do that.
Exactly.
We don't have any.
Yeah, I like it that way.
So you're talking to us from the Cleveland area, from a small town, right, Ivana?
Correct. And that's for, Anita said that she and I have been friends for a long time. And really, we were actually kind of neighbors. So this friendship has gone by for a long time. However, I'd been a fan of Small Business Trends since you first started. We've known each other before then, but I've always been a fan.
Yeah, it's going on like 15 years or something.
Gosh, don't remind me. Yes. Where does the time go?
Absolutely. On the screen, you see our Twitter handles that we use professionally. So if you want to engage with us on Twitter, I'm Small Biz Trends. Michael, you use the company's Twitter handle at Constellation EG. Is that right? Okay. And Ivana?
I'm at DIY Marketers.
DIY Marketers. Okay. So there you go. A few housekeeping details before we jump in. As many of you know, if you're watching on Facebook, we are broadcasting live on Facebook, but we also have people who are attending as a webinar using the Zoom platform. So if you are on Facebook and you want to interact with us, you want to ask questions, please type them in the box underneath this video, and we'll be sure to get to as many as we possibly can. In fact, I think we're going to try to take questions as we go along, right? And maybe not keep them all to the end. So we'll try to pick up as many questions as we can. Also, if you are watching through the Zoom US platform, there is a little text box in your controls, and you can type in questions there, and we'll be sure to get to you from that. Also, we are recording this session, so it will be a video afterwards, and if you registered, we'll send you a copy of the video afterwards. You'll be able to look at it that way. If not, you can also see it on Facebook. I want to say that, we're going to try to stick to keeping this within under 1 hour. So we're going to get to it as fast as we can, but just jump in and out, interact with us, send us likes, send us hearts on Facebook if you're there. We want to hear about that. And we definitely encourage questions, right, guys? Definitely. All right. So we're definitely going to, answer your questions. All right. So with that, we are off to the races. Now, before I show you the first slide here, I have a question. And the question, I'm going to direct it to you, Ivana. Okay, so the question is, what are the top complaints that office workers have about their environment and where they're working? What would you say those are, Ivana?
Well, I don't think it should surprise anyone, because whenever I was in an office, my number one complaint has been the temperature, Anita. Typically too cold. It's just too cold.
Too cold, huh? Okay. Yeah, so it's cold, and I see this term up there called the thermostat wars, which I guess that refers to what? To people playing around with the thermostat, turning it up, turning it down, turning it up, turning it down. So, Michael, do you have that in your offices?
Well, we definitely do, and what it kind of equates to is there have been a number of studies that over the years, but all of them have been skewed towards men as kind of the average audience. So when they set the temperatures, it's based on an assumed height, weight, metabolic rate for men of a certain age, roughly 40. And the problem is it's set way too hot for most women and any men that are different than the average. So what tends to happen is you get people either sitting in offices or cube space or whatever else. They're under a return or they're against the windows, and they're, as opposed to managing microclimates, you try to set a temperature kind of for everything. You may have a universal thermostat and everybody's kind of going up and setting it up and down and other stuff. The business has a reason, of course, to try and make that efficient, because that's dollars and cents. But maybe folks don't always think about there's an impact on productivity for people that are too cold or too hot. And there's an impact on happiness, kind of job satisfaction even if they can't articulate it. If you're uncomfortable, you feel it and it comes out, one way, shape, or form or the other. So there's some things we can talk about and how to address that, but really comes down to if you need an average or if you need a guidepost. So current thinking, better based studies, I think more kind of diversity based studies say that for a general office, they don't specify a size, but that you should set the cooling at 76 and set the heating at 70, right? So, it's not that should give you a happy average, but maybe more important than that, you should involve your employees in this discussion. What temperature or range makes you comfortable? And then when you make a decision, communicate, because folks are willing to compromise. If they know that they're going to be, at times of the day, it's going to be a little hotter for them, a little cooler, but they know that it's sort of, this is the best for everybody, they're far more likely to kind of deal with it, and they can deal with it consciously, not unconsciously or subconsciously.
And you should probably look at what your employees are doing too, because Have you ever been in an office where, in the summertime you see people huddling with jackets and sweaters?
Oh,
I
yeah.
mean,
Oh, yeah.
crazy.
It's always summertime here in Houston, just like I think Naples has better weather, or at least more
But it's
seasonal weather.
always summer, yes.
Yeah, but in Houston, it's always a balmy 85 degrees or higher. So, yeah, there are folks sitting outside right now. But recently, we've in this office building where we are headquartered, we've made investments in microclimates. I brought that up before, which literally they truly mean they're trying to set controls for relatively small defined areas to give better controls to groups. But that group of people are still responsible for setting the average temperature. So we're early in that experiment, but there are absolute reasons to be encouraged that that'll make everybody happier.
Yeah, and I know we're going to be talking a little bit about some technology in just a few minutes. But one thing I want to say about technology is, it used to be that only huge corporations could afford these systems that would, that would sense the temperature or have zones and so on. Yet
Right.
today, you can do that. You can even do it in your home, let alone your business. So
Definitely.
it's definitely within reach.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Okay, anything else about the thermostat wars that you want to mention? Who's won? And question out there for anybody listening, do you have thermostat wars in your office, and what have you done about it? So, okay, well, with that, let us move on. We're going to talk about light bulbs. Now, why would we talk about light bulbs per se? I guess because it's probably a pretty important topic, right, when it comes to energy. And
Yeah.
one of the stats I read was something like 90% of the energy from an incandescent bulb comes off in the form of heat.
Yes.
So, if you're trying to cool your building and you have all this heat coming down, you're sort of, you're undoing what you're trying to do with all the energy you're spending on your cooling. So, Ivana, talk to us a little bit about how much a typical energy budget spends on lighting. I mean, is there some rule of thumb?
Well, there is a rule of thumb, Anita, and no one was more surprised than I was because I have actually recently gone through this process of changing out my light bulbs. And when I read the statistic, I was so excited. Would you believe that like 5% of your energy budget is actually taken up by light bulbs? And let me see, I have a nasty habit of I get up early in the morning and I'm having coffee and I have the light on and then I go off and move around the house and I forget to turn the light off. And just like anyone, my husband works out of the home. I am at home all day long. And when he comes home, he's like, turn off the lights. Right. So I thought to myself, if I started swapping out these light bulbs, that this would make a real difference. In fact, it says that you can save like $75 a year. So I'm pretty excited about that prospect. Although, as the resident value shopper on this panel, and I got to ask Mike about this, I have to tell you that the price of these light bulbs is painful to watch. So Mike, and other question for you, Michael, choices. Yeah. My goodness, I've just started replacing, and I'm like, 1 minute they were some type of, LED, and now they're LED, now there's something new. Michael, how do we deal with the choices? How do you choose the right light bulb for what you're doing? Give us some tips.
Right, that is a great question. I think you start with, hopefully you can break it down to the things that really matter to you, which are typically how much light do you want, either in a general, are you working, and then the space you're working with, right? Are you working with a big broad space like a warehouse, or are you a home office based person and you've got, a fairly defined space? And that the focus should be on the light itself, meaning how light, how bright is it? Do you want it like sunlight, or do you want dimmer control? Kind of those considerations. But what you should know is that the trade-offs you're making sometimes are about efficiency and a little bit about finite control on the level of light. So incandescent bulb, the old-fashioned Thomas Edison light bulb, has a filament and it makes a circuit and illuminates when you charge it with electricity. And there's a small amount of molecular dispersion, and then it reconcentrates. It's really wonderful if you like science, which I do. That bulb is incredibly inefficient, rough, like Ivana and Anita said. There are your choices, however. Nowadays, you can step to a halogen, or have been able to buy halogen bulbs, I think maybe 30 years. They've gotten better because they're very hot. You can't touch them. If there's oil on the thing, if you remember, they'll burst.
Yeah.
It's still like that, but they work differently. They have the filament, and it's a tungsten steel filament, and it's halogen gas inside of the bulb, whatever shape the bulb is. And then you turn that thing on. When it's lit, the heat of the filament actually evaporates some layer of the tungsten, and then the electricity illuminates the tungsten gas within the halogen gas, so the mix of the two. But then that eventually recondenses, so it's sort of used over and over again. They're much longer lived, far more efficient. Far more is probably an overstatement. They're 75% efficient, probably not an overstatement, than incandescent bulbs. Now you can move from there to what are called compact fluorescent lights. From an efficiency standpoint, again, they're much more efficient than incandescents. They are easier, more portable than halogens, which are pretty portable, but they tend to have dimmer light. Halogens have crisp kind of daylight light. So if you need brightness, if you're doing a webinar, or if you're doing something, you're making a movie, or you're outside, or you need to have clear vision to individual pieces, or for the atmosphere within your business, you kind of need that sunlighty feel. That's what you do. If you need the dimmer part, you've got a restaurant that is serving lunch and serving dinner, so you're going to move the light up and down. You could consider CFLs, but for me, for both my personal use and what we use in the office, are LEDs. They work differently. They send charges through. They charge molecules that are filtered through semiconductor material. So it is very efficient, the most efficient really of the various choices that we've talked about. They tend to last much, much longer than incandescent lights, meaning a factor of 10 times longer. And what Ivana got to earlier, the expense kind of reflects it, but you are buying a bulb that's going to be around for a very long time. So it's sort of more expensive up front for halogens as well, and even for CFLs, but far cheaper in that you won't be replacing that bulb over time, and you can move that bulb or that device that you have it in different settings and get different kinds of lights. So you have choice. You have to make it kind of fit to your business's needs.
And when you don't have to change light bulbs as frequently, it's a lot more convenient too, especially if those bulbs are up high, I can tell you.
Exactly.
Yeah, your workers' comp is not in danger.
Exactly. So what are some things to save money? What are some quick tips? We've got some things on the screen here. I guess just turning things off is a good start, right? But what are some other things?
Other things you can do?
Yes.
Is that enough for you, or are you?
I was going to say the one that really surprised me was actually dusting off your bulbs.
Yeah, that's a good one.
Right? Again, I'm sorry. I'm like the value shopper here. Anything to avoid unnecessary expenses. And dusting off your bulbs, okay, yeah, you have to take the time to do it, but it shows you that there's some simple things you can do.
And it extends the life of the bulb.
Yeah.
Oh, there you go.
That's good too.
But I think motion, of all of those, I hear you on that. I think the motion sensors, like to that point about Ivana and her husband, those make for, and their devices too, of course, that are out there, that'll let you take let's call it an unconnected bulb and connect it through Wi-Fi to a phone-controlled app that'll let you turn it on, turn it off, like some of the commercials you may see with a little boy kind of lighting the whole house and turning up and all that. But I think that motion sensors are real smart kind of play to look at that and look to see if that applies for you, because that will make a very big difference to both your bill as well as kind of the overall lighting experience.
And the life experience of your employees and your family if you work at home.
Right.
And I want to say you must be a mind reader, Michael, because you asked the question that we got, which was, you answered the question, which was, my employees leave the light on even though the last person out is supposed to turn them off. What should I do about that? Timers, well, motion sensors, huh?
Yeah. Yeah, and we're going to talk later about some of the technology you can look at, but I do think the simple solutions tend to be the best. The ones that require, not so much.
Okay, so we're going to switch gears. And I want to pass along a little information about a study. The Corporate Executive Board, CEB, which is now Gartner, did a study with small business owners a few years ago. And one of the things they found is that 90% of us, see if this sounds like you, stick with our original vendors. We don't switch very often. We are not switchers. Only when we have a reason to switch is when we switch. And I've got to believe that's doubly true for energy, Michael, because I'm going to tell you something. I'll bet you that a lot of small business owners don't even know you can choose your energy provider or switch.
Right.
So talk to us a little bit about that. What is that all about?
Well, yeah, it's been a little while. It started in the 90s, but first it was the federal government that said, that passed a law saying that wherever utilities operate, they have to in effect give access to their infrastructure to third parties. And then the individual states, 24 individual states have made the decision that you as a small business owner have the right to buy your energy from someone other than a utility. Why is that important? Well, utilities charge based on the cost to deliver that molecule of energy at that moment. So literally, if there is greater demand, if there is a sudden weather event, your price can, ricochet. We retailers of energy, the middle people, we can sell, and we do sell, particularly Constellation, fixed price pricing plans or fixed price plans. And that means the unit of energy price is fixed for some time period, 3 months, 4 years, whatever you choose. Your cost then is dependent entirely on your rate of consumption. So you get control. So choice is about control. It doesn't, you can be concerned about hidden costs. That's real. I get that, or a real concern. But by law, the contracts have to be very clear in what you are being charged and when it's being charged. Are you being charged just the cost of energy or the cost of distribution? After that, you've basically got it all. So it is not as complex as it may feel. There are choices out there. Do you care about renewables? Do you care about will you have a partner in this? Will you by buying the energy, will you be my energy partner? Will you conduct an audit of my business? Will you provide tips to me on a regular basis? And even if I'm not super excited about this energy thing, as a small business owner, I would recommend that energy represents roughly 30% of any one small business owner's budget. And that a few pennies difference in the rate of energy represents dollars to your bottom line. It goes directly from that cost to your bottom line if you can control that cost. So it's a pretty big deal. So it's worth taking control of and getting to know. But there's lots of information out there, and obviously no pitch, but we would love, like all of us, a chance to talk through what you have, what you're after, and how to get there.
Yeah, that's that's really good to know. And this idea of like figuring out how to go about switching and so on, give us a couple of concrete pointers on that, Michael, since you're the expert at this. Like how do you go about this? When should you switch? I mean, what's important for a business owner to know, like a little checklist of things?
I think so. The of all the things that any small business owner is doing on a managing kind of where the vision of their business and then the day-to-day logistics, oftentimes if you aren't the chief operating officer, meaning you're not the head cook and bottle washer, you're only like a half a person removed from that. So you got a lot on your plate, there's no doubt about it. But I think what I was saying, I come back to what I said earlier. Energy is roughly 30% of your budget. And, cost of people, cost of materials, the cost of your facility, you've got, what those, how those kind of lay out for you. But here's one big chunk of your budget that, if you are looking for savings, or more importantly, if you're looking at your bottom line and thinking about how do I grow that while trying to get more customers, generate more revenue, then you should be looking at the major drivers of cost, and that energy will be one of those. On the other hand, you should probably do an annual review of what am I spending on energy. I would, in your place, this is easy to say, but I would invite people in to tell me, as opposed to saying you're an annoyance and ignoring it. I'd invite people in to tell me, here is what you have, and here's how I could make that better, and make them prove that they can make it better. So I think, as opposed to a defined event like you're just done with your energy provider, or there's been an emergency and you didn't necessarily like the response, or there's been an emergency that makes you thought about it, that you take active control and you'll get results that you like.
So that's interesting, Michael. If you mentioned that energy choice is available in different states at different levels, so yep. If I was a small business owner that was really interested, two things that you said that interested me: controlling my budget, right? And doing something proactively. So how would I even go looking for who can service me in my region?
Fair enough. I mean, if you like doing stuff online, if you're comfortable with it, there are, you can get to, of course, you can use a search engine and put in, energy providers for small businesses in your state, in your town, or your city, or your municipality. You can also typically see on social media, name your platform, but you can see discussions going on about, I need to make a decision. Small Business Trends on a regular basis is talking about kind of major cost drivers, and energy being one of those, as on a relatively regular basis, has a very informed discussion about it. So the resources are out there, and then of course you can ask, other small business people that you're connected with. It's probably better starting there it's probably better sticking with kind of the quote professional peer or the search online than just sort of a general search of friends or discussion of friends, because they're going to have similar experiences. It's like ask your neighbors. Makes sense if those neighbors are small business folks.
That's great. Thank you, Michael.
Okay, well, I'm going to keep moving along. That was really helpful, Michael, because I think it's a topic people don't know about, and we'll come back, I'm sure, to these points in a bit. Let's keep moving. Let's switch gears now to recycling. This is a topic that's near and dear to anybody who considers themselves a good steward of the environment, or tries to be. Let's put it that way. We try to be. And so we want to talk about that, and we do have a question from the audience, and I'm going to throw out the question so that you can address this as you go along, and I'm going to call on Eva first, but we want to hear Michael as well. how do I get my employees to recycle? We have recycle bins, but I still see people throwing away recyclables. I imagine that's a pretty common issue. But talk to
Absolutely.
us, Eva. Why should businesses even care about this?
Well, again, I'm not a super energy expert like Michael, but I am going to give you the marketing perspective on recycling. Years and years ago, Tim Sanders, who wrote the book Love is the Killer App, I spoke to him in an interview, and one of the things he said to me at that time, so this is quite a few years ago, probably 2005 or 6 or something, and he said, do you know that this is the first year where we have a generation of consumers who are choosing companies based on their value set, based on what those companies stand for, based on what they believe in, and based on how they behave. So I see recycling as one of those things that says, like you said, Anita, that you're a good steward of the environment. Mm-hmm. So as a business, from a marketing perspective, your customers want to know that you are being a great steward to your environment and to your community, right? Because your garbage goes into the landfill, and the landfill probably isn't far from your location. So definitely you want to do that. But the question at hand you asked is how to get employees excited about it. And, one of the things that we've learned is that there are actually huge, recycling is a cost saver. It's one of the ways that you can, like whether you recycle your inkjet containers or your laser jet printer cartridges, the companies and other folks are actually going to give you discounts. So you could actually, instead of, let's say, taking that discount, I don't know if I should say it this way, taking that discount for your business, you could use that to inspire your employees to contribute to the recycling, but maybe they get a benefit of some sort. Maybe the money that you save goes into a bin and you have a party or something like that. There's so many great ways to get employees involved. You can have contests and games and talk about social media. You can tell folks that you're doing a recycling drive and maybe help the community. Post pictures up on Instagram, post pictures up on Twitter and Facebook, and show everyone how engaged you are, because that's not just good for the environment. It's good for your employees and it's good for your customers too. When I was in graduate school, one of the things that we learned, it was like the physics of economics, was that doing the right thing and being profitable are not mutually exclusive principles. Oftentimes they go hand in hand. So this is just one of those things.
Yeah. So Michael, what else would you add about recycling? And I also see another question: what kinds of items in my office can and can't be recycled? So give us a few tips there.
Can you guys? Before I answer, I'm hearing a little garble in my end. Are you hearing that at all?
Not from this end.
All right, then it's my network. So the show must go on. So
exactly.
If I don't answer, if I don't answer directly, know that it was just I can hear it now. All right.
Okay.
So I know, ultimately we think about, 254 million tons of garbage, picked up, collected, moved around annually in the U.S. That's a lot of garbage. It is imperative, both from our employee standpoint and our own, just generally being good human beings, that we do recycle, but that we, to Ivana's point, we need to make that sort of not it is part of who we are and what we do, as being part of good corporate citizens too. I think part of that too is making a decision to use energy from a renewable source, or work with an energy provider that can tell you this energy is coming from solar or wind or biomass or hydro, and can show you exactly kind of where it's coming from, and actually in our many of us will provide sort of a sticker saying this this establishment is focused on renewables or something along those lines, to not just have it be something that you guys do, but to share that with a broader community that you know cares about it as well.
Exactly. Yeah, I think that communication is really important to do with the broader community. So that's a great point. All right, so we're going to move on to our next slide, okay? And actually some interesting factoids. So we've alluded here to Michael being in Houston, and Hurricane Harvey was just recently. Oh, that's been terrible. Even more recently, I've dealt with Hurricane Irma here in Naples. And one of the things I've learned is that after a hurricane, there are huge, huge amounts of debris. I don't know about where you are, Michael, but there's still piles of debris everywhere in the Naples area. Is it that way in Houston?
Yes.
Yes. Okay. I think maybe what you have there is.
Last week there was still parts of Houston.
Someone has your another either has Facebook going or something. You're hearing an echo. Either has Facebook going or something. You're hearing an echo.
I don't have Facebook on.
I don't know what's going on, but okay.
Can you hear me?
I hear you.
All right. Can you hear me though?
I can hear you perfectly.
So Houston, all right. Florida was hit very differently. It was like a head-on crash, and there are the lower parts. There are several towns that are right off of the Gulf of Mexico that were hit that way. Houston was a little different in that we're inland, but we got 50 inches of rain in about 48 hours. So, you know, there was more rain after that, but it was that big surge that really challenged kind of the system. So up until about 2 weeks ago, there were still parts underwater.
Yeah.
So you're exactly right that more places, there are still lots of places where Houston is at sea level, and homes in those areas, they've been either totaled or people are stripping them of everything, and it's all outside.
Yeah. Well, we can certainly save money, but more importantly, we can help the environment, I think, by conserving. And so one of the things is, for example, you know, all of the garbage that's out there. But what caught my eye is you can save, what, $75 a year just by turning off your computer?
I know, isn't that incredible? And I'm a guilty party. I tend to leave my computer on.
I'm a guilty party. I tend to leave my computer on.
Yeah. Yeah. You should turn off the monitor as well if you've got. You can save a comparable amount by using a laptop versus a desktop computer, if I remember correctly, too.
Yeah. Okay, good. All right. Well, listen, guys, let's keep moving here. Well, now I want to talk about energy audits. Okay, so we've alluded to doing that. And this is another one of those areas that I don't think a lot of small business owners actually know about this as a potential aid or help for what you can do. So I wonder if we could talk about this just a bit. You know, what exactly is an energy audit, and, you know, how do you go about it? So, Mike, maybe you could talk about that a little bit. Energy audits.
Absolutely. So it's actually pretty straightforward, and you know, if you hire professionals, there'll be a level of scrutiny higher than if you do it yourself. But it is effectively, whether for your home or your business, it is a walkthrough first of how much energy you are using, you know, on a month-to-month basis. So it's called establishing a baseline. So you look back over your consumption, you know, if as far back as you can, because you're trying to look at, is it, you know, about winter and summer, when I had a big hiring, or when we had some sort of major renovation within the building or not. But if ultimately you're trying to get at what's my baseline, what's my regular kind of energy, but then you start looking at the sources of your use. If it is about habits and behavior, leaving lights on, leaving computers on, that sort of thing, choices of equipment, like my lighting, that I'm using incandescent bulbs all over the place. I'm not using motion sensors, that sort of thing. As well as, the age of my equipment, the efficiency of my equipment, and then the physical structure itself, the insulation, sources of drafts, and then, like your air conditioner, your HVAC. So it is a detailed look at first what you're using, and then try and zoom in on areas where you can potentially see, significant changes or significant savings, because that is the whole objective, by either very large changes or small changes, so you can make a financial decision. I mean, an investment decision. Invest now to reap savings over some time period, or if I do this thing, I can expect to see kind of a big change. It depends on your situation, of course.
I'm really curious about this point that's on the slide here about assigning a champion, because I think it's one thing to run through the checklist, and yet we all say we're going to do something, and then we kind of don't do it.
We all say we're going to do something,
right,
and then we kind of don't do it.
Right. Well, I think the whole point of enrolling employees, because I guess my answer was incomplete. The first part is the audit. The second part is what you do about it, right? So it isn't just I buy this or somebody puts insulation in. That behavior stuff that we were talking about earlier is the source of your long-term or ongoing savings or efficiency. Getting your employees involved in general is a smart play. Giving people or helping people feel ownership, whether that is a champion or kind of, teams of, is absolutely critical to the success of this. This has an ongoing thing, and it's not policing people. It has to be that we feel your employees feel this is important, just like you do, and that we're consistent in our behavior, and we're not just, fixing this problem, but we're suggesting other ways potentially to be more efficient on a day-to-day basis.
Michael, we've got a question from the audience. How long does an energy audit take? How long does an energy audit take?
It depends on the size of the business, but it's probably going to take, roughly a couple of weeks. And much of that will be the looking at past use, but an on-site audit the on-site part of it is most of a day. So someone comes out, you don't necessarily have to walk around. That's, if it's a company like ours or your utility or whomever comes out and does it, or you do it yourself. You walk around with a checklist, and they're available online, and you kind of measure where things are. There's some fun weird things you do, like you hold a dollar bill up to some cracks and see if you can, kind of, if it blows, or you look at a crack to see if you can see exterior or the like. And there's some things you do at the, door jams and other stuff that still make a difference if I'm running a muffin shop, on the west side of Detroit, where I'm from. So it's not, the audit itself is fairly short. It may take some time to do some analysis of your history, and then to give you the results. But probably within 2 weeks, you have the results and recommendations.
And I just wanted to mention a comment we had. I was reading here from one of our participants, from Pierre. He pointed out how an internal champion helps internalize how people behave and make sure that the tasks get carried out throughout the organization.
Yeah.
All right. Well, good. Anything else before we move on? Anything else about energy audits, Michael? Good. Anything else before we move on? Anything else about energy audits, Michael?
No, nothing else.
Very good.
I did get a comment that you can hear an echo.
Yeah, so that we are hearing a bit of an echo there, but we'll.
Anita?
We are hearing a bit of an echo there, but we'll.
Okay. I don't have, so just to be clear, I don't have Facebook on, and I'm in the webinar only, and I only have the one source of sound. You may be hearing voices from people around me and offices near mine too.
Well, it's just, it's one of those things, but anyways, we're going to keep going. So I want to talk about the Constellation Efficiency Made Easy program. So we've got that up on the screen here, and I know we have a video actually to watch, but Michael, what is this program?
Well, it's essentially, it is very much like what I was talking about earlier. The program is structured to work with very small businesses or very large businesses, but it is a very detailed kind of assessment of your business and then very specific recommendations of either technology or other pieces, and that Constellation in effect partners with existing customers or new customers to manage kind of the investment cost against the cost of your bill. And in many cases, we can actually help get, if it's a new HVAC or new other pieces, we can help you find, kind of best price providers for that stuff.
Okay. Shall we watch the video, or would you like to convey anything else before we jump in? Watch the video, or would you like to convey anything else before we jump in?
No, I think video is always cool.
Okay, great. All right. So with that, we're going to see. All right. So with that, we're going to see.
B.L. Downey is a coating company. They coat everything from very small parts to very large parts.
We receive parts from our customer base. We apply the required coating system that they specify, and then our customer comes in and picks them out. We do everything under the sun. Small screws, washers, nuts, all the way up to 50-foot light poles. What makes us really unique is our size. We can do big parts. We can do a lot of parts.
Constellation has had a 12-plus year relationship with B.L. Downey. We initially were selling them natural gas, but as we evolved into helping them more and more to reduce their energy costs over time, we began working with them with their electricity, with our load response and demand response programs, as well as Efficiency Made Easy.
So what we needed to find was a solution where we have good lighting all throughout the plant, and we also have a situation where sometimes the gas escapes, sometimes it's just a little wasteful. So we're looking for better ways to do it rather than just opening up the throttle and flaming the gas as high as we could.
They had a project that they were interested in completing, but they didn't have the capital to do so. This project entailed upgrading their burners and implementing a control system onto their ovens, which would make them more efficient.
We had manual temperature controls that they would just kind of go on and off. And if someone noticed that parts were not coming out good in the oven, they would just go over and turn it back up. Back in 2014, we were approached by Constellation EME program team, which gave us the opportunity to look at ways we can save money through our electrical consumption, and to figure out what areas of opportunities do we have to improve our lighting as well as reduce our costs.
I've been selling the Efficiency Made Easy product for the last 4 years that allows our customers to implement energy efficient solutions at their facility or property with no upfront cost. We bill them back on their electricity or natural gas bill on a monthly basis, pay for the project. The idea is that the costs of the project are offset by the reductions in electricity or natural gas usage.
The EME program helped us upgrade all our lights. We got new lights in the parking lot, which vastly improved safety because we run 3 shifts, so we have people coming and going 24 hours a day. I'd say the biggest benefit to this program is we did not have to spend any of our own capital. That program was financed by Constellation EME, and we will be paying it back over the next several years through our electrical utility bill. And that's nice to have when you're a small business organization where money is tight.
At BL Downey, we were able to implement a $1 million project that saved them about 10% in electricity, 360,000 decatherms a year. So that savings offset the cost of their project. That reduced their carbon footprint by 4 million pounds of CO2. That's the equivalent of taking 382 cars off the road annually.
The partnership between Constellation and BL Downey has allowed us to save money and be more efficient, and also be a good global partner by cutting all our emissions and all our waste.
They're also giving us updates regularly on what new programs they have in place, what new technology they have in place. So Constellation is a partner, and it will be a partner going forward.
Okay, so very interesting. Love that we, we're able to hear from customers. It sounds like a really powerful program, Michael.
Yeah, I agree. I absolutely agree.
All right. Very good. Sorry, we were watching it again. Whether I want to do or not.
No, it is. You want, I mean, if you want a partner in this, and not somebody who sort of parachutes in every once in a while, but someone who understands something about your business. I will tell you that, surprisingly, maybe not, one thing, depending on the nature of the business, that where a lot of folks do actually find themselves saving money is in control, is like looking, if they can control or manage when their actual labor or the plant of what sort or another is operating, it can have significant impact on your costs. In other words, if you are doing your business in typical business hours and you've got an extrusion plant, or again, you've got a bakery, you are using energy, when it's at peak demand, depending on how much you're using, but you're using it at peak demand. And that oftentimes doing some of that work late at night during off-peak can have a significant impact on small business energy costs. Just a factoid.
Yeah, great points. And I do want to point out there's a bit.ly link at the bottom, bit.ly, and you can see the URL there. At the end, we've got actually a reading list for you, but simply wanted to point out that, you can watch that video over at YouTube. All right. I want to keep the pace going because we're getting kind of close to the end here. So why don't we zip through some of these remaining slides real quickly? Michael, what can you tell us about landscaping? What can it really make a difference?
Well, shade trees can make a huge difference to your energy costs. They depending on what you do and when you do in your landscaping. You can look at a 15, as much as a 50% savings, but it is consistent. It's kind of well studied, and it's customizable to your situation. So landscaping is a place that you typically don't look to invest, but maybe you should. You should think about it if you have control over like the physical location.
Oh, that's really, really good.
And I want to put a shout out over to the heat and light blocking curtains and shades.
Yes.
I have just recently purchased new curtains for our master bedroom, light blocking, insulated, whatever you want to call them, and very lovely, if I might say so. What a difference. I think the temperature is, well, of course it's been hot. So it's, the temperature is so much cooler in that bedroom. It's the best, most comfortable room in the house.
Right.
So shout out to the curtains.
Yeah. And to play on that, shade trees can from a landscaping standpoint, can play a very similar role, right? It's over the roof or it's blocking sun from coming directly in some cases, and it also chills out, it's a nice chill out view for you and your employees.
Absolutely. Okay, let's move on. How to manage energy usage and costs.
Yeah.
Okay. So here's where I want to talk about technology a lot. Technology has really changed. I mean, if I were to look at what really has changed a lot in the past few years, it's this explosion in all these smart buildings and smart homes and all the things that you can do.
Yeah.
Even what are a couple of things that you can do with technology and apps?
Well, one of the things I've run into as I've been going around in the stores recently and surprised me tremendously is how easy it is to convert your analog home into a digital home. You would think that you have a lot of wiring to do, but that's not necessarily true, right? You can get one of those Nest thermostats and slap it up there. There's something you could get at, I think it's, what is the place, Bed Bath & Beyond or something? They're like these clickable things that you could put right on top of your switches, and they connect them to your smartphone, so you could really manage your energy use. And my goodness, I don't even know that this is on here, but if you've gotten anything updated, whether it's been an air conditioner or a heating system, chances are you have a programmable thermometer in your office. You can program it. That makes a huge difference.
Right.
It's sort of not exactly the coolest of the cool technologies, and it's not a smart gadget, but it's certainly an improvement.
Absolutely.
So we have a question from the audience. Can your thermostat be hacked?
Oh my goodness. Great question.
Yeah, I mean, I think the answer is technically yes, it could, but I think the chances of that happening are very low, and there's a lot of security that these thermostat manufacturers put into their technology.
It is, and other than the nuisance factor, the hacker doesn't gain all that much.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, let me keep moving along here. So, energy tax breaks and incentives. So Michael, one of the most interesting things I also learned recently was how many tax breaks and incentives are out there, and this was very interesting to see.
Yeah.
And they come in the form of credits, and they come in the form of deductions, which maybe you could explain what that difference is real briefly. What is the difference between a credit and a deduction?
Well, a tax deduction takes down your taxable income, right? So that means ultimately you pay less. And a tax credit, in effect, takes down what you actually pay in taxes. So they come at, it can feel like the same thing, but they come at it very differently. So with a tax credit, as you can get for example, the investment tax credit for buying a solar roof and some other things, it is, if you spend $1, it's $1 off of your taxes. A tax deduction is literally, you say, I spent $1,000, and at my taxable rate, I can deduct some portion of that $1,000. So they are meant to incent you to take advantage of emerging technology and known technology, to improve your control, improve your carbon footprint, and reduce your consumption.
And so these tax breaks are out there for energy-related investments that you might make, and some are in the form of deductions, some are in the form of credits. Pretty interesting stuff. So it's everything like what, from buying a certain type of car, an electric car, to improvements you make. What are some of the things that you can get from taking advantage of these?
Well, you said it. So it is buying an electric car in many states and from a federal standpoint, and then if you change out your roof, build a solar roof, if you make an investment in battery powered technology, storage battery powered technology, or biomass power generation, you can get tax credits for it as well. So to your point, there are lots of resources out that explain the breadth of things that you can do. And I'm happy too if you hit our Twitter, hit the Twitter handle to share some of those resources.
Yeah, so Constellation EG is the Twitter handle, right?
It is.
Okay. Well, that's really good. And, you know, I think this is a, you know, a nice incentive to, you know, if you needed another incentive to want to do something energy related, this would be it. Hey, yeah. I've got a couple of questions here real quick. Let's see. Do white roofs lower energy costs? I've heard different things. I don't know the answer to that one.
Yo no sé.
You don't say. But if you're thinking about, you know, light reflecting and not being absorbed, I guess I can understand that.
I can answer a little bit of that because we just got a new roof on our house. So it's not necessarily, yes, the lighter the color, because we asked about this, the lighter the color, the better it is. However, also understand that when you get a new roof, it's actually the material that it's made out of. So just like with the light bulbs, folks, it makes sense to invest in something like that. So definitely don't skimp on your roof. Get a really good, I think they have R values is what they're called. So make sure you just tell them you want the highest efficiency, best energy roof. That's what you want.
Excellent.
Good. Hey, I've got one other question I'm going to wrap up, I think, with Michael, and that is, if we could do just one thing in our business, what would give us the biggest bang for the buck? In other words, where do you start? If you just wanted to start with one thing, what would you recommend, Michael?
Man, that's a great question. I will go back to something we said earlier. Look at opportunities, or Ivana just kind of got there. Look at your lighting, as it is a surprisingly meaningful part of your total budget. Change out to more efficient lighting, and then layer on it, putting in motion detectors that you know, turn the lights off when you're not there. And actually, a third thing, I'm sorry, I can't just do one. Invest in minor scale technology that will allow you to control some of your in-office equipment, to turn it off through a phone app. It's surprisingly simple. You can buy your groceries through an app now. You can turn your computers off and turn the lights off. It's great.
Yeah, that's great. Great insights. And I think that you have prepared a reading list if people are interested in delving further. Is that right, Michael?
My friends and I have prepared a reading list, and it's extensive.
Okay.
And you can hit it at the URL listed.
Okay, that's great. And I'm sure you'll put that up on your Twitter feed as well, correct?
Absolutely.
Okay, and so we'll have that. We'll put that in the Facebook box below if it's not already there. I think someone on my team will do that. Okay, any last words? We are at the end of our session here, and I just want to ask you, Ivana, any last words?
You know, I have to make a confession, and that is that I was petrified of this energy conversation because it does involve science. It does involve mathematics and cost savings. I like the savings, not sure I like the math, but this is so much easier than I thought. So if I was afraid of looking into it, I'm really not so much afraid now. Amazing what a little information can do.
Oh, that's great. That's great. And Michael, any final words?
No, I really appreciate the chance to talk to you folks directly, and thank you for your questions, and thank you for your time.
And thank you very much. And where can they go on the Constellation? What's the Constellation URL as well, Michael?
Well, it's www.constellation, CONSTELLATION, as listed on the page, .com.
Excellent.
And you'll see how to navigate from there to various resources for small business folks, but just generally as energy consumers.
Well, thank you, Michael. And I know we had some other questions. I'm sorry, I wanted to stick to the time here and not go any further. So I'm sorry if we didn't get to your questions. I still see them still coming in. But what we'll try to do is we'll try to answer them in some way, either on the Twitter feeds, on the Facebook posting. But be sure that we'll go through and we'll look at all the questions.
Excellent.
I would like to thank everyone for attending today's webinar on dimes to dollars. Very good. And thank my panelists here. You guys are awesome.
You're awesome.
Thanks, Michael. Thanks, Anita.
Thanks, everyone. Bye now.
Bye now.